Hey, we got an amazing story coming up, so I really hope you enjoy. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss out on a new upload. Okay, grab some snacks, because it is story time.
The moment I stepped into the International Xenogenic Research Facility, an electric pulse of anticipation washed over me. It was as if the very air was charged, humming with the intensity of scientific potential and unspoken, taut fear. My name is Dr. Marcus Reyes, and today would prove to be the most significant day of my scientific career. Though at the time, I had no inkling just how profoundly it would change everything. The Atacama Research Complex was more than a laboratory. It was an unyielding fortress of science, hidden 3 kilometers beneath the most desolate landscape on Earth. The harsh, endless expanse of sand and stone above masked humanity's most audacious and ambitious attempt to understand extraterrestrial biology. 12 years of arduous diplomatic negotiations, 3 international treaties, and countless sleepless nights had brought me to this singular moment. My comm device buzzed with urgency, and Eric's voice crackled through the encrypted channel, rich with a blend of skepticism and underlying worry. "You're certain about this place, Marcus? Walking into a research facility where the team barely tolerates human presence?" I adjusted the seamless nanofabric of my protective suit, the thin thread shifting around me like a second skin. Each microscopic filament was a marvel of engineering, capable of molecular-level protection and real-time biological monitoring. "More than certain, Eric. It's necessary," I replied, trying to suppress a tremor of unease that had nothing to do with the technology and everything to do with the unknown. "Necessary and safe are 2 different things," Eric muttered. His concern threaded through the static, familiar enough to make me pause. He had been my friend and colleague for over a decade, and while I knew his humor was razor sharp, his voice now was edged with more than wit. It was a plea for caution. The security protocols were unlike anything I'd encountered in my years of classified research. 12 separate decontamination chambers, each more intricate than the last, awaited me. Each contained a unique system of quantum resonance scanners, genetic compatibility filters, and radiation neutralization fields that interlocked like pieces of a complex puzzle. When I finally reached the last chamber, I felt the weight of scrutiny heavier than I'd ever endured. I was scanned, analyzed, and assessed in ways that would make even the most sophisticated biometric systems look primitive. By the time I emerged, I had been examined more thoroughly than any human in history. Dr. Calyx waited on the other side, the lead xenobiologist of the Zaraxian research team. Calyx was an enigma wrapped in an alien form that defied human understanding. Their silicon-based body resembled an intricate, living crystal sculpture with translucent geometric panels that shifted and reformed with each subtle movement. It was impossible not to feel small and insignificant in the face of something so extraordinarily different. "Dr. Marcus Reyes." Calyx's voice resonated through the translation implant in my ear, its tone deep and musical, woven with a curiosity that bordered on reverence. "You represent an unappreciated opportunity for our research." A chill of recognition swept over me. The reason I had been chosen for this exchange was not only my extensive work on xenobiological interactions, but also my controversial theories on the adaptability of human biology. Most of my colleagues dismissed my work as radical, even laughable, branding it science fiction at best. The Zaraxian team, however, had seen potential. They'd seen something in my theories that other researchers had overlooked, something that would make the impossible conceivable. I forced a careful, confident smile. "The honor is mutual, Dr. Calyx. The research chamber around us was a marvel of technology, centuries ahead of anything humanity could conceive. Holographic displays showed molecular structures so complex that it seemed alive, flickering in and out of a state that felt both tangible and ethereal. Containment units lined the walls, each housing biological samples that bore the signature of the most diverse galactic life forms. Technologies that would make NASA's most advanced facilities seem like rudimentary workshops held each sample in suspension, sealed within energy fields that shimmered with otherworldly hues. Calyx gestured towards the central platform with crystalline appendages that shimmered like liquid diamond. "We've been studying human genetic material with increasing intensity," Calyx said. "Your species presents anomalies that challenge our most fundamental understanding of biological systems." Anomalies was an understatement. Every analysis of human genetic samples had produced results so inconsistent with conventional xenobiology that they defied classification. Human DNA had revealed adaptive mechanisms that made established scientific models seem like rough sketches, concepts that could barely hint at reality. To the Xeraxians, this was an enigma worthy of both fascination and caution. I watched as Calyx manipulated the prepared blood sample, eyes fixated on the holographic readouts that began to dance with cryptic data. Quantum resonance patterns shimmered, genetic expression models morphed and shifted, and cellular simulations spun in a wild dance of theoretical complexity. The chamber felt alive, buzzing with energy as though the very fabric of reality was being rewritten in real time. My mind drifted back to the path that brought me here. An orphan at 12, taken in by grandparents who instilled in me boundless curiosity, the years of study, being the young genius who saw patterns when others only saw chaos, and the military research that had revealed glimpses of humanity's latent potential, all had led to this defining moment. Then it happened. The holographic displays flickered and stuttered. Molecular structures that had been behaving with predictable order now erupted into a cacophony of change. What was once calm and controlled twisted into a tempest of quantum activity, as though reality itself was convulsing. "Containment breach imminent." A mechanical voice blared, the facility's AI warning system pinging in multiple languages. Calyx's crystalline form trembled, each shard vibrating with an energy that suggested both awe and alarm. "Unprecedented quantum cascading detected," they proclaimed. I recognized the signs before the translation could even reach me. This was no ordinary biological reaction. This was something entirely new. The blood sample was sparking quantum activity that defied every law of physics we thought we knew. "Eric," I whispered into my comm, heart thundering in my chest. "Are you seeing this?" There was only silence. Then, a burst of static, followed by Eric's urgent voice. "Marcus, shut down the experiment now!" But it was too late. The quantum stabilization field around the containment unit wavered, flickered, and collapsed. The air in the room warped, bending light and reality as molecular bonds unraveled and reformed at an impossible rate. A force unlike anything I'd ever felt surged through the chamber. A pulse of energy so powerful it seemed to stretch the boundaries of existence itself. "Evacuate!" Calyx's transmission roared, their voice barely audible over all the chaos. Instinct took over. I lunged for the emergency containment protocols, fingers sliding over the holographic interface in a desperate flurry. But the quantum cascade was accelerating, expanding beyond any conceivable containment model. The energy surged with a final, blinding white light. And then, darkness. When consciousness returned, I was no longer in the facility. I was in a sterile, clinical space. The antiseptic tang of the air sharp in my nostrils. My body ached, and I was wrapped in crisp white sheets. The lab, the facility, the storm of molecular chaos. I tried to piece it all together, but the details were jagged and broken. The soft beep of medical monitors pierced the silence. Eric's silhouette appeared, hunched over a holographic display, his movements quick and precise. A half-empty coffee container sat too close to a stack of data files. As if even here, in this crisis, he couldn't shake his old habits. "Welcome back to the land of the living," Eric said, a wry, relieving smirk across his lips as he glances up, his blue eyes piercing and unreadable. The tension in his voice was unmistakable. "You've been out for 3 days, 16 hours, and approximately 42 minutes. The medical team was, let's say, considerably perplexed." I shifted, trying to sit up, wincing at the movement. The lab! I rasped, my throat dry and cracked. Eric's face darkened. Completely obliterated. Not just destroyed. The entire facility ceased to exist at the quantum level. The memories surged back, sharp and unrelenting. The impossible cascade. KLX's crystalline form vibrating with alarm. The blinding white light that fractured reality. The Xeraxian research team? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. Eric paused, his eyes narrowing with the weight of the answer. No casualties. But every piece of equipment, every biological sample, every ounce of research, it's gone. Erased from existence. My hands clenched the sheets, a tremor running through me. The blood sample, I whispered, fear creeping into my voice. What did they find? Eric's expression shifted, the clinical precision in his gaze now tempered with a deep, unsettling awe. Your blood demonstrated quantum entanglement properties that should be mathematically impossible. It's like your cellular structure contains mechanisms that communicate instantaneously across multiple dimensional planes. A shiver ran through me. I knew Eric well enough to recognize that beneath his calm facade there was something more. Something that spoke of both exhilaration and terror. He saw poetry in the quantum realm, but now that poetry seemed more like a warning. How is that even possible? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. Eric's lips twitched into a strained smile. That, Marcus, is the question. If we're going to find the answer, we're going to have to ask it with a new perspective. One that may change everything. And as I sat there, tangled in the sheets, haunted by the questions of what happened and what lay ahead, one thing was clear. I was no longer just Dr. Marcus Reyes. I was the key to a mystery far greater than I had ever dreamed. The quantum resonance research facility looked more like a fortress than a scientific installation. Located deep within the Australian outback, it was a testament to humanity's most advanced defensive technologies. Layers of quantum shielding, molecular interference generators, and biological containment systems surrounded a central research complex that represents our species' most ambitious scientific endeavor. I stood beside Eric, watching as the latest batch of test results scrolled across the holographic displays. 6 months had passed since the initial incident in the Atacama Desert, and we're no closer to fully understanding the quantum properties of human blood. Something's missing, Eric muttered, his fingers dancing across the interface. The quantum interaction models shifted and transformed, molecular structures twisting into impossible geometric patterns. General Antonelli entered, his military bearing unchanged despite the months of increasingly bizarre research. Any present report, doctors? I turned, catching the slight tension in Eric's shoulders. We both knew we were walking a razor's edge of scientific discovery and potential global security threat. The blood sample continued to demonstrate quantum entanglement properties that defy our current understanding of physics, I explained. It's not just a biological system, it's a communication network. Eric nodded, pulling up a series of complex diagrams. Each blood cell acts like a quantum processor. Information transfers occur instantaneously across molecular structures that should be impossible to penetrate. The general's eyes narrowed. And the Xeraxian research team? A complicated question. Since the laboratory incident, diplomatic relations had become increasingly strained. The alien researchers were desperate to understand the quantum cascade that had effectively erased their most advanced research facility. A communication alert flashed. Calyx had requested another meeting. The holographic transmission materialized, the Xeraxian researchers' crystalline form shifting with what could only be described as scientific frustration. Humanity continues to obstruct comprehensive research into the quantum biological anomalies. Eric's response was measured. Comprehensive research requires mutual cooperation. Your initial approach was less than collaborative. Calyx's molecular structure vibrated, a sign of intense emotional response.
Your biological system represents a fundamental threat to our understanding of quantum interactions.
I stepped forward. Or an opportunity for mutual scientific discovery. The tension was palpable. Humanity stood at a crossroads. Our biological systems had demonstrated capabilities that challenged everything we knew about quantum mechanics, cellular communication, and interdimensional data transfer. But we were just beginning to understand the true potential. Additional research had revealed startling compatibilities. Human blood didn't just carry oxygen, it carried information. Quantum-level communication that could potentially interface with technological systems in ways no other known biological entity could ever achieve. Eric's latest experiments had shown that a single drop of blood could effectively reprogram molecular structures, not through destructive means, but through a form of quantum communication that was more like a software update than a weapon. We need to understand the transmission mechanism, Eric said, pulling up his new holographic models. It's not just about what the blood can do, it's about why it does it. The facility's quantum sensors began to spike. Something had changed. Calyx's transmission became erratic. Quantum cascade initiating. Molecular interference detected. Before anyone could respond, the research facility's quantum shields began to fluctuate. Molecular structures started to shift and transform. Something was happening. Something unprecedented. The blood sample, stored in a quantum-isolated containment unit, began to generate a field of quantum interactions that spread exponentially, not destroying, not attacking, communicating. "Eric," I whispered, "are you seeing this?" His response was a mixture of scientific excitement and pure terror. "Massive quantum information transfer. It's like the blood is talking to the entire facility." Technological systems began to reconfigure. Quantum shields adapted. Molecular structures reformed with impossible precision. The Zaraxian researchers' transmission became a cacophony of molecular communication, fear, confusion, wonder. The communication came through unexpectedly. The quantum encrypted transmission pulsing on the screen like a living entity. I felt a shiver run down my spine. Every muscle in my body taut as the message decoded itself. Eric was out of the room, leaving me alone to face whatever message had been sent from the Saraxians.
Dr. Marcus Reyes.
The translation algorithm passed the alien speech, its mechanical voice steady but oddly reverent.
Your species represents an unprecedented quantum biological anomaly.
I had expected this. Ever since the lab incident, I knew the Zaraxian research teams would be relentless in analyzing our discovery, obsessed to the point of madness. But I hadn't anticipated this. Not just their scientific fervor, but the undertone of fear that resonated in their transmission. The secure communication terminal flickered, the display sputtering like it was struggling under the weight of the message it was carrying. Then Eric's voice crackled through the static, sharp and edged with urgency. "Don't engage without me," he warned. But we both knew it was too late. The message had already reached me, and now there was no turning back. The Zaraxian transmission continued, the complex molecular vibrations that made up their language forming patterns that revealed more than simple words. They had been studying us, probing our very biology, desperate, trying to decipher the quantum communication mechanisms we had unwillingly triggered. Weaponization was inevitable. I could feel it, a dark certainty pressing against my ribs. I reached out and pulled up the latest research files, letting them display across the holographic interface. What we had learned so far shattered everything we thought we knew about life. Our blood was not just a biological transport system. It was a quantum communication network, an extraordinary, living system that defied all known physics. It was a secret buried within every single cell, one that could reach across dimensions, transmit information with impossible speed, and manipulate molecular structures as if they were malleable clay. Eric would have loved these revelations. His mind, rooted in quantum mechanics, saw the poetry in the complex dances of molecules. The subtle and elegant interactions that others only saw as scientific puzzles. The mysteries we unraveled had revealed a hidden truth. Human blood was far more than we had ever imagined. The transmission crackled and then shifted. The voice of High Chancellor Vornak, the lead diplomat of the Xeraxian delegation, filled the room, his tone grave.
We require comprehensive analysis of the quantum cascade mechanism. Your species represents an unprecedented biological anomaly.
I stiffened as the realization sank in. They weren't just curious, they were desperate, and desperation was dangerous. They wanted more than knowledge. They wanted control. They wanted to harness what we had discovered, to weaponize it. Our blood wasn't just a marvel, it was a power, a message so potent it threatened their understanding of reality. I thought back on my journey, to the moments that had led me to this point. A young orphan with an insatiable hunger for understanding. Years spent hidden in the world of military research, hours of sleepless study that eventually cracked open the secret of human potential. My life has been building to this moment, to this understanding. Our blood was simply not a vessel for life, but a code that the universe was waiting to read. The terminal pinged again, drawing me from my thoughts. Another transmission, this time from General Antonelli. The message was simple but dire. Military intelligence had intercepted multiple Xeraxian communications. The aliens were preparing for something. And we, whether we wanted to or not, were at the heart of it all. The room was silent. The kind of silence that pressed down on the ears and made the mind race. I stared at the communication terminal. The last message from General Antonelli flashing on the screen. The words seared into my mind. The Xeraxians are preparing for something, and we're at the center of it. I leaned back in the sterile chair, the medical bay's fluorescent lights casting sharp shadows across my face. 3 days, 16 hours, and 42 minutes. That was how long I had been unconscious. How long the world had been reeling from the quantum cascade that had obliterated the Atacama Desert facility. When I had awoken, the shock of finding out that the facility had been erased at the molecular level was only the beginning. The fact that it had been my blood, my very biology, that had sparked such an extraordinary event felt like a wound that wouldn't close. Eric's voice came from the doorway, cutting through the thick electric tension. You're staring at that terminal like it owes you an answer. He stepped inside, his usual smirk replaced by an edge of exhaustion. His eyes, once bright with intellectual mischief, were now shadowed with the weight of what we'd discovered. Maybe it does, I said, finally breaking the silence. Maybe it has answers we're not ready to hear. He pushed a loose strand of dark hair behind his ear, then sat down on the edge of my bed, crossing his arms. You're not alone in this, Marcus. We're in this together. Remember? Whatever happens next, we face it as a team. The flicker of determination in his voice was the lifeline I needed. Eric and I had known each other long enough that we didn't need words to understand the gravity of our situation. We were on the verge of something monumental, and the universe was watching. The Xeraxians were coming, their motives unclear, their technology formidable, but we had something they couldn't predict: our humanity. A chime from the terminal signaled an incoming message. It wasn't from General Antonelli, but from an encrypted source I'd never seen before. My heart quickened. Eric leaned forward, the intensity in his gaze sharpening as the message began to play.
Dr. Marcus Reyes.
The familiar synthetic voice spoke, but this time it was laid with a subtle vibration, an inflection I hadn't heard before. It was a voice I recognized as High Chancellor Vornak's, but now it carried an urgency that resonated in my bones.
Your species is more powerful than you know. We must meet.
I swallowed hard. Memories of that initial meeting in the Atacama Desert surfacing. The crystal clarity of Calix's form. The cold, unblinking light of the quantum scanning chambers. But this time, the fear was different. It was no longer veiled. Eric and I exchanged a look, and I knew we were both thinking the same thing. What could they want now? We need to go to the Quantum Resonance Research Facility, Eric said, breaking the silence. It's the only place with the kind of security we need. I nodded. The facility, a fortress in the Australian outback, had been designed to withstand any potential threat. And it was where we had been continuing our research since the Atacama incident. The room had been fortified with every precaution humanity could offer, but the question remained, was it good enough? The sky above the Australian outback was an endless sea of stars, the cool desert air prickling against my skin as I stepped out of the transport. The Quantum Resonance Research Facility loomed ahead, a crystalline structure of reformed alloys and advanced shielding. The facility's energy core pulsing with a low, rhythmic hum that hummed like a heartbeat. Eric and I were met by a security team, their faces shadowed by helmets with reflective visors. The lead officer, a weary man with an austere expression, nodded curtly. Dr. Reyes, Dr. Hoffman, General Antonelli is waiting for you in the briefing room. The hallway inside was a maze of metal and glass, every surface polished to a sterile sheen. Holographic panels floated mid-air, displaying the latest data streams and security protocols. I couldn't help but feel that it all paled in comparison to the mysteries our blood had unraveled. We entered the briefing room, a space defined by its simplicity. Nothing more than a conference table, a few chairs, and a holographic display at its center. General Antonelli stood at the window, arms crossed, his silhouette sharp against the glow of the desert night. Dr. Reyes, Dr. Hoffman, he said, turning to face us. I'm glad you're here. We're on the brink of something we can't control. I nodded, fighting to keep the nervousness out of my voice. What do we know? Antonelli's jaw tightened, and for a moment, I thought I saw the faintest glimmer of doubt in his eyes. The Zoraxians are mobilizing. We've intercepted encrypted transmissions, communications that reveal an alarming shift in their strategy. They're preparing for something monumental, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. I swallowed, the weight of his words pressing down on me. Is this about our blood? About the quantum communication? Yes, he confirmed. They've sent word that they wish to speak with you directly. Not through diplomatic channels, not through intermediaries. They want you, Marcus. And I don't think it's just for answers. Eric shifted next to me, a frown etched deep into his features. Do they want us to come to them? Antonelli hesitated, and that hesitation was enough to answer the question. He exhaled slowly, as if the weight of what he was about to say pained him. They want you to come to their ship. Their ambassador, High Chancellor Varnak, believes that only direct contact will suffice. A silence fell, heavy with the implications. If the Zoraxians were ready to go this far, it meant one thing. They were desperate. Desperate for answers, for control, for whatever power we had inadvertently unleashed. Do we have a choice? Eric asked, his voice low. Antonelli's eyes met. We don't. But you need to prepare. Whatever is happening now is bigger than anything we've faced before. You and your blood, Marcus. You're at the center of it. We boarded the transport, a sleek, silver ship that cut through the air like a blade. The journey was silent, save for the gentle hum of the ship's engine and the whispers of the crew. My thoughts were a storm. Memories of the Atacama incident, visions of Calix's crystalline form, and the last moment before the light consumed everything. Eric sat beside me, staring out the small viewport. His face was pale, eyes distant. I knew he was thinking about the quantum cascade, about how the Atacama facility had vanished, how the fabric of reality had fractured around that single drop of blood.
Marcus, Eric said suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper. Do you think they'll understand? I turned to him, meeting his eyes. They were wide, searching, full of questions that no amount of science could answer. I don't think anyone understands, Eric. Not them, not us. But maybe that's what makes it important. Maybe we have to show them that it's not just a weapon, but a message. The transport shuddered as it touched down, the landing pads humming with a low electric pulse. The doors slid open, revealing a space that defied human comprehension. The Zaraxian ship was not made of metal or alloy, but a living, organic structure that shimmered with crystalline light. Its surface pulsed in rhythms that felt almost musical, each beat sending ripples through the air. 2 figures awaited us at the entrance. High Chancellor Vonak and Calyx, who had grown more defined in his crystalline form, his geometrics now sharper, more deliberate.
Dr. Reyes,
Vonak said, his voice smooth but edged with tension.
You come at a time when our very understanding is at risk.
I took a breath and stepped forward, feeling the weight of their expectations pressing on me. I came to understand, and I came to share that understanding. If it's the only way to bridge this gap, then we'll find it. Calyx's form shifted, an almost imperceptible nod of approval. The room they led us into was unlike anything I had seen. Holographic and organic displays covered above the crystalline structures, showing quantum modules and shifting molecular patterns.
You have seen our research.
Vonak began.
The quantum cascade, the way your blood interacted with our technology. It has sent ripples through our civilization, but it has also caused fractures we cannot mend.
Eric's voice cut through, steady and full of urgency I couldn't ignore. What are you afraid of? The silence that followed was telling. Calyx's appendages moved like fingers of an anxious pianist, and Vornak's eyes narrowed.
We are afraid that your biology is not just an anomaly, but a harbinger of change,
he said, voice low and strained.
It could be our evolution, or our extinction.
The realization hit me like a fist. They were not simply preparing to weaponize the knowledge. They were preparing for a fight, an existential war against something that they could neither comprehend nor contain. Then let us help, I said, stepping forward, feeling the weight of humanity's potential pressing on me. We may not understand everything, but we know that this is not just power. It's communication. It's the language of life itself. Vornak's crystalline eyes glimmered, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of hope in them.
Then speak to us, Dr. Reyes. Show us this language.
And so, we did. We reached out, using the quantum communication network embedded in my blood, sharing not just data, but understanding. A dance of molecules, a symphony of biology that spoke of potential, unity, and survival. The Zaraxians listened, their forms shifting and resonating with the vibrations. What followed was not a declaration of war, but an unprecedented partnership, an alliance forged in the heart of a quantum code that neither humanity nor the Zaraxians could control, but both would use to evolve together. We had not just found a message. We had become part of one, weaving our future into a story that would echo across the stars.